Hey.
You drive on it, it turns to ice, and then you can't, I don't care if you have four-wheel drive or not, you know.
Well, suppose it was, once I plowed mine, the sun melted.
Yeah, the sun hit it.
16 degrees.
Yeah, the sun's warm now, it's getting warm. Yeah, 'cause I went over to Tanner's yesterday morning and got hers all plowed out, and that sun hit it, it's bare, right down to the bare.
How you doing, sir?
All right, hello?
It's gonna be cold like.
Are
Hi,
you
John.
good?
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay.
The
Did you make
mayor,
that motion tonight, maybe?
yeah, the mayor did say we should do it.
Yeah, I just didn't know if he talked to you or not.
That what?
I didn't know if he talked to you about it.
Yeah, he did, but we didn't write anything down.
It's
So,
pretty simple, right? A motion
just
to
a
increase
motion.
the Facility events.
Coordinators.
paid to whatever it is.
Raise it
To 150
Is that what you guys agreed to? Okay.
per event,
100% sure.
per event. For like transfer motion
Not
to
yet.
increase the pay for our
That way there's a record of it.
We took
facility
some stuff over yesterday, and
event coordinators.
the family was all there.
I'm sorry, but that's wrong that Natalie's telling them they have to stay there.
I'm not
Before
sure.
we
I
even
think he
created
is,
that
yeah.
position,
But
you
there
didn't
was
have somebody
family
from
there.
the village
was-
there?
The house, they had a full house, so there was just one
Because like
van
now
sitting there,
that
but
we
they must all
lost
come in
Debbie,
the van.
The resident, whoever is, I think it was last weekend or this coming weekend, they have to just come up and get the key themselves. You know, leave their license and,
Yeah,
Right.
you know, because
Well,
I see him, he
before
comes,
we
you know,
even
he walk
created that
over.
position,
Sometimes
and
the
we
dog
were
makes
renting
me
the
sit
outside,
there, you know.
the outside of the
They
fence.
get all worried, you know, that the dogs run around.
Be
my
there
back.
all
I
day
don't care if the
themselves
dogs
with
run.
no
Let them
one
run,
from
you
the
know.
village there at all.
Needs to run a little bit.
And that's when they would tell us too, oh no, we're not gonna have alcohol, so we weren't making sure there was an officer
come
there.
right away.
That's why we said an officer at everything.
troubles, right,
You know,
right.
it just has to be, but that position, $75 for somebody to give up 6 or 8 hours.
Taxable, it is taxable.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, for 6
was-
or 8 hours, you get work
No, it wouldn't be for me, not on a Saturday or a Sunday, no, those are my favorite days.
Yeah,
But, yeah, it
that's
wouldn't,
why.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. There was no reason for her to say, oh, you have to be there the whole time. That was the whole point. They come in first, they say everything's in working orders, there's
Yeah,
no holes in
that
the walls.
Murphy's
You
house,
come there to close up,
and then,
you didn't take the trash out, that goes against your
That's why I was
deposit.
surprised there was no
Yeah.
checklist.
And
They should
then,
still have one, because especially they
then,
need to hire
Marty.
more now that they only have two. I mean, it'd make it easier for the new person, here's a checklist, okay, you know, check the men's room, check the women's room, check the kitchen, if they use the kitchen, check the kitchen, check the garbage cans. You know, I mean, there should be,
I'd met him a
you
couple
know,
of
it makes
times, but I really
life a
didn't know
little
him. I was
easier.
setting up for David's
Because you could get caught up in the moment and not check something, and then you're in trouble on Monday morning, because you didn't look, and then the resident is off the hook already. You know, I don't know.
I don't see anything. I hear things, and I look over, and
We
he
had
just raised his
donated
head up
all
this
those
little hill by where
bags,
his yard, he was laying
And I
in the
always
yard.
gave 'em over to Dominic
Shot
and
himself
Connie
with
in
the
the
nail.
garage, so
And
for
he's
now,
calling
so
me.
I'm sure they'll
I
probably
go running
have
over and going,
Milan come
We're gonna
down.
have, yeah, we're gonna have to, I told Milan, don't even take the pre today over to Connie.
Yeah, no, but just down the road, yeah.
I said, and we'll just plan on, we'll do her route. I said, until somebody
That's-
else wants to help out.
So that was always our story,
I just didn't know if he ever told you that,
Oh,
where
yeah.
those bags came
Yeah,
from,
they told
but,
us.
you know, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's why I was there Tuesday morning, I'm stacking him some more of them, I'd get him through the whole year, and he gives me 2 thumbs up, you know how he is, it was like, oh. I mean, my last picture of him was 2 thumbs up in the garage, and
That's what I saw.
I guess that's a good last,
One
Memory in the brain.
one of my favorite memories of him was, he belonged to St. Mary's. And they would do a night at the races. And his name was Dominic, and the wife is Conchetta. Everybody calls her Connie.
So fast,
And he would always tell the story about how they wanted to get a horse for the night of the races at the
well, the
church.
first
And he
time
wanted to
he
name
called me
it
over
a
there,
combination of their
he had
names.
that Corvette that split from
And he loved that joke, and he would tell it over and over.
Oh,
And
jeez,
Connie
it
would be
sounds like
oh
him.
my God, shut up, Lori." You know?
Oh,
But he
boy.
loved joking around all the time like that.
Yeah, he had a great personality, just so nice. Just both of them are a
Every time we would
wonderful
bag-
couple.
Every time we bagged the owls across the way, he would say, "Well, here I am with all the bad ladies." You know?
Seems to be recording good, so I think we're okay.
We on?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me get my bearings straight here. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Village of Walton Hills regular council meeting of Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 at 7:05 PM. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I'd like to take a moment of silence to recognize some of our deceased residents who have died recently. Michael Colazzi, Karen Treadwell, Dominic Flato, and Jeff Finley. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay. Roll call, please, Nikki.
Councilman Nielsen?
Here.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Here.
Councilwoman Allen?
Here.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Here.
Councilman Whedon?
Present. All of council present, along with our fiscal officer Nicole Sell, our law director John Montello, our village engineer Joe Gelati from Sugar Valley Engineering is also joining us tonight. I'd like to welcome any residents that are watching the live stream or non-residents also. Okay, we have item 5, which is a motion to approve the January 21st, 2025 council meeting minutes and the COW meeting minutes for 2/4/25 and 2/11/25.
Mr. Mayor,
Jennifer Allen,
I'd like to make a motion to approve all of the meeting minutes for January 25th, 2025, and COW meeting minutes for February 4th, 2025, and February 11th, 2025.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane Canzoni. Vote on the motion.
Councilman, oh,
Sorry, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a point. I can't vote on the COW meeting minutes of 2 weeks ago because I wasn't here. I was
You
absent, I was
watched.
sick. So I can't vote on this myself in one package. See what I mean? I'm going to have to abstain from the one COW vote.
What should, just make 3 separate motions, John?
Sure.
Probably, you okay with that, Jennifer?
Sure.
We'll start over then, right? That's fine, right?
It's just February 4th, right?
Correct.
She never got a second there, please.
Okay, so we'll start with
Yes.
the,
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve January 21st, 2025, and February 11th, 2025 meeting minutes.
is there a second?
Second.
Vote on the motion.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes. Okay, motion approved.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the February 4th, 2025 COW meeting minutes.
Vote on the minutes.
Councilman Nielsen?
Wait, first of all, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane Canzoni. Vote on the minutes.
Councilman
motion.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Abstain?
Councilman Whedon?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We have item 6, persons having business before council. And also you can, did you have anything, Jeff, or? Okay. And any time during the meeting too, whether it's on the live stream or
She did that.
somebody that's here. Okay. Now we have
Those two together.
mayor's report. Okay. Let's see, we'll go with the, okay. This is the mayor's court report for January 2025. The total revenue is $12,570.50. And year-to-date is $12,570.50. And last year-to-date was $22,110. Okay. We have the mayor's court, mayor's police report. The Walton Hills Police Department issued 67 citations in the month of January. The predominant violation was speed with 16 citations issued, followed by 15 citations issued for expired plates, and 5 citations issued for driving under suspension. We had no arrests for driving while under the influence of alcohol/drugs. That is nice to see. Okay. Any council comments before we move on to the legislation? Okay. I thought what we would do is we'll just kind of go through and we can see who wants to make the, make the motion, and then we'll just go through it real quick, and then we do have Joe here, our engineer. He can answer some questions, and then we can go back and vote on it. Our first piece of legislation is ordinance 2025-1, the NOPEC Energized Community Grant. Who would like to introduce that? for
Mr. Mayor,
suspension? Yes.
I'd like to introduce that for suspension.
Okay. And then we have item B, ordinance 2025-2, amending the appropriations.
Mr. Mayor, I'll do it.
Okay, Diane Canzoni, for suspension, Diane?
Yes.
Just for the audience reference, all these items were talked about and discussed in the 2 COW meetings. Some of it even before that. Okay. Now we have ordinance C, ordinance 2025-3, the ODOT preliminary legislation. Who would like to introduce that, after we talk about it, whether it's first reading or suspension?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Okay.
introduce that if we go through it with suspension.
Okay. All right. Then we have item D, ordinance 2025-4, consulting agreement with Tom Jordan Associates. I know we talked quite a bit about that. That would be the same, whether or not you wanted to put it. Tom will be here tonight. He's coming from another meeting, but he will be here. Whether or not first reading or suspension.
I can do that, Mayor.
Okay.
I don't mind
Spitz and
doing
Mayor.
that for suspension, if everybody agrees with that.
I think we were pretty much in agreement.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with, okay. All right. Then we have E, item E, resolution 2025-6, the national opiate settlement. I know we discussed that. Went through that quite a bit, Mr. Montello and Nicole Sell answered a lot of those questions. Who would like to introduce that for
Mr.
suspension?
Mayor?
Okay, Mr. Nielsen?
And that would be for suspension?
Yes, please, if everybody's good with that. Okay. So now we're gonna back up a little bit. All right. So we're gonna go to item C, ordinance 2025-3, the ODOT preliminary legislation. I know we had quite a bit of discussion the last couple meetings, and we felt it would be necessary to have Joe here tonight, our engineer, to answer any further questions anybody has. So, you know what, I didn't get a chance to put the mic out. Let's grab the, we got,
Mayor, use the MPC to do it?
no, we'll do it, so we'll do it right. And take 2 seconds here. All right, you want it, I got it.
Bet.
You're like, this is like, going in front of the Senate here. Okay. All right,
Testifying at the Capitol.
that's it. All right, I'm prolonging this because I want to listen to the conversations. I'm just making this guy here, okay?
There's no limit on the.
They're gonna kick me out of here, right? All right. Is it
Is
on,
this
Joe?
working?
Check it to see if.
I hear you.
Oh, good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We're good.
All right,
All right,
Joe, if
did-
you want to start
Yeah, I was
off
gonna
and
say,
kind
would you like me to give a little summary, where we're at here? So
That'd be great.
I'm happy to do that, so, made some notes here, for myself, because I figured, I knew we were gonna chat about this,
I know
so-
we did have some questions from some of the council members,
Correct, correct.
business owners, so.
Yes, correct. So, I think generally it's all good news here, on this project, and I know it's a project we've been talking about for, quite a while now, and really the entire project is all about safety, right? We know that. Unfortunately, we've had some fatalities out there on the road. We don't need to go back into the details of all of that. We know all about, that history. But this project is to build sidewalks along Northfield Road. No more walking in the street. We've all seen people walking the street on Northfield, and it is very dangerous. So this project will have sidewalk on both sides of Northfield Road, from Alexander up to the bridge. Way back at the start of this journey, there was some discussion just to have sidewalk on one side when we knew that Forward Innovation East was coming in. We says, hey, we need a sidewalk to get there, and we didn't have any funding in place at that time. We then approached ODOT for their safety funding program, and through our conversations with ODOT back at that time, both parties recognized that, hey, we have to have it on both sides. We can't build sidewalk on one side of the road and not on the other. What if somebody gets hurt on this side where there is no sidewalk? Then all the effort is for naught, and we all look terrible, quite honestly. And ODOT was willing to fund both sides. So, so that was a pretty easy decision to move forward there. In addition to just the sidewalk itself, we will have some other pedestrian, let's call them safety improvements. We'll have curb ramps and pedestrian signals, the walk, don't walk signals at the Alexander intersection, because right now there's none of that. So somebody crossing the road is just kind of on their own if you want to cross Alexander or Northfield there. And we'll also have a crosswalk at Hannon Parkway. So that'll have curb ramps and crosswalk striping, and it'll also have not a traffic signal, but a signal for pedestrians to cross. So it will sort of look like a traffic signal, it'll be an overhead light, but really it just blinks yellow all the time until a pedestrian actually walks up to it and pushes the button, and then it'll turn red and the person can cross the street. So, so that'll be a really nice feature right there. All about safety again, and all those features are part of the ODOT funding. So, so that's all good stuff. Right now, our schedule here, we're in the beginning of 2025. Year 2025 will be right-of-way acquisition. As you probably know, we need to acquire strips of right-of-way across the front of the properties to actually build the sidewalk in, because in a lot of areas, the right-of-way that exists is very narrow. So that process will take place here in 2025. Assuming we pass the legislation before us here tonight and the mayor signs the agreement with ODOT, we can then move into that process. And the deadline for acquiring the strips of right-of-way is in December of this year, which may seem like a long way away, except it's really not. It'll be here before we know it. We need to hire our professional service to help us to do the right-of-way acquisition for us. They'll then do all the legally required steps, and they'll have the correspondence or coordination with the property owners, and they'll get all the signatures and make all of the financial arrangements, and they'll handle all of that for us. But it does take a while. Just did one in Macedonia, quite honestly, and I would say it was 8 months, start to finish. So we want to get started there on that. The next part of the schedule is construction, of course, and as I think you guys know, that's scheduled for 2026. So that's where we stand there.
And that would be like around summertime?
I think they had it
June.
May,
They
if I
had
recall, May or June, I don't recall
June
the
of
exact.
2026.
June of 26, is that what they say? Yeah, so that's what they have on the schedule right now, and obviously we want to stick to that schedule. We don't want to delay the project, certainly. We certainly don't want to delay ODOT in all of this. So a couple other things that go along with that. In the document, there is the agreement document, there is some verbiage regarding indicates that the village is responsible for 100% of the cost of any items beyond this agreement. And I would say that's perfectly fine. I don't foresee and I don't recommend any additional items beyond what we are currently doing. Examples of additional items would be like decorative landscaping, some signage, or I don't know, if you wanted to fix the storm sewers or something while you're installing a sidewalk, but I don't think we're interested in any of that. We want to build the sidewalk, and we want to have a safe situation out there for our pedestrians. So I don't recommend any of that, and I don't foresee any of that. That is standard language in every ODOT agreement like this. So, and of course, they put it in there to protect themselves. They're paying for the sidewalk. They don't want to wind up paying for fancy landscaping or something. So I get it. Sidewalk maintenance, I know, has been a question that's been asked once or twice over time. Historically and generally, and it's not just in Walton Hills, it's every town really, sidewalks and tree lawns are the responsibility of the property owner. We have one sidewalk here in the village, right next door, and the people that live along there, they cut the grass in between the sidewalk and the road, and if the sidewalk needed to be fixed, technically it would be on those property owners. So, and pretty much every other town operates that way, and I would say that's where we should begin, or we should keep that approach. That's just the way every town operates. I'm not sure we want to get into the business of owning everybody's tree lawn when we don't already do it. What else do we have here? This is preliminary legislation. You probably saw in the title. May ask yourselves, preliminary, well, what's next? There will be final legislation. It usually happens right before the bid, which would be next spring of 2026. That will be the final legislation. It'll be a document very similar to the one that you have before you here tonight. They'll change the word preliminary to final, maybe a couple other small things, but it'll be basically the same agreement. And lastly, this project will operate a little bit differently than most of our projects. Usually we do a project here in town, we pave a road or whatever it may be, and we handle it. We as a village, we bid the project out, we award the project as a council here, and then we manage the construction. This one will be different since ODOT is involved. next spring, ODOT will actually bid the project out, they'll award the contract, and they will administer the construction. They'll administer the contract. We as a village really become hands-off at that point, and that's just, those are the standard, I guess we'll call that standard operating procedure with ODOT when the project is federally funded, which is where these funds originate from. So that's really it. Wanted to get everybody up to speed, clear up any questions that may have been asked over time here. And I guess lastly, I would recommend that we pass the legislation tonight so that the mayor can sign the document, the agreement, and we can move on to the right-of-way acquisition stage here. So, did I speak for too long?
No, you're good. Any council members have any?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Joe,
Go ahead.
is there going to be a crosswalk across Crick Road?
No, not at Crick.
Okay.
Yeah,
There will be a crosswalk. Where
at
else?
Hannon.
Okay.
Mayor
Yeah,
Program?
go ahead.
Yeah, I had one question, Mr. Gelati. So you talked about the maintenance piece,
Mhm.
and the question came up last week
Okay.
because of Section 6 in this draft, or this preliminary agreement.
Okay.
Kind of points to maintenance being the responsibility of the LPA.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
And not all of the
Ye-
individual business owners.
Yeah,
That's
so
where that came up.
that's a good question. And I will say that Section 6 also is standard language that ODOT puts in every one of these agreements. And it's in there really so that nobody thinks it's ODOT's responsibility to maintain the sidewalk. ODOT is happy to fund the project and bid it out and administer it, for the village, and that's fantastic. But they don't want to be, we'll say, stuck with the maintenance responsibility forever and ever, because ODOT does not maintain sidewalks, at least not in a village or a city. If we were a township, they would, but not in an incorporated town. So, good question. It is a little bit of a quirk, I agree.
So then, when the project is completed,
Mhm.
Who shares the message with the individual business owners about that responsibility? Is that an ODOT function, or is that a village function?
I would probably not be an ODOT function, so, yeah, once the project is complete, we as a village might want to let people know that, let property owners know that.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Joe, about the funding and the
Mhm.
money, does
Mhm.
any of it come to Walton Hills and we have to pay any of the contractors, or do they handle all the money transactions
Yeah, so
themselves?
when the contract is awarded in spring of 2026, ODOT will award it to some contractor. ODOT is funding 90% of this project, so 90% of that construction cost, we never see. ODOT handles it directly with the contractor. At the start of construction, ODOT will ask us for our 10%. So we'll give ODOT our 10% at the start of construction, and then when the project is over, we will square up with ODOT at the end. So there could be a small amount of money to go one way or the other. And again, that's standard procedure for an ODOT project like this. But yeah, good question. Yeah, ODOT's not giving us the money and then we hold it and pay the contractor later. No.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we have a couple comments. Karen Remming said, speaking of sidewalks, who will maintain them? But then said that question was answered. And Joseph Klukan says, I cannot imagine that the cost of maintaining the sidewalk falls back on the business owner. It is not residential like you stated, but it will increase our operating costs. Also, will there be a crosswalk at the bus stop?
Not sure which bus stop Oh, probably at Hannon. I think there's a bus stop tag at Hannon.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. Yep.
Did you want to comment on the sidewalk maintenance?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, that's typically falls with the property owner, you know, whether,
So if we were in a community,
well, go ahead.
okay, let's say a community like Independence,
Okay.
okay? Who maintains their sidewalks in their business areas?
Are you asking me, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
did
yeah,
you know?
I don't, I would assume that the property owners,
Okay.
I suppose if as a village we wanted to take on the long-term responsibility to maintain the sidewalk, we could do that. I guess we have the right to do that.
Right.
Be a little bit unusual, but we could.
Any other,
Mr. Mayor?
yeah, go ahead.
As far as, I had a question that I did write you the email
Mhm.
on about the funding, and you did mention the 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Where does all that, this is a zero-cost project to the village ultimately, is that correct?
Ultimately, yes. Uh-huh.
So how do
So-
these numbers work out? Because I can't, I
Yeah,
can't get them to work out.
You cannot, because you're probably looking at the 5-year plan.
Yes.
Yes, correct. So, and I'm glad you brought that up. I had some notes on that as well, too. I just didn't get to yet. So, a few things. Yes, so this project will be no money out of our general fund. So, all funded through other mechanisms, let's call it. So we have county ARPA money that we still have some of. Of course, the ODOT money, that's the lion's share of it. And we also have our TIF fund as well. And remember, when we created the TIF a couple years back, this was exactly the project we had in mind when we created the TIF. So, you know, here it is right before us. So, and it's a little funny, the timing is all, I guess, in a way it's perfect, or maybe it's all last second here. All of the plans just got completed on Friday, so we have some newer dollar amounts that we can work with. Of course, when we put these cost estimates together well in advance, a year or two in advance, naturally we always budget a little bit conservatively, right? And we don't want to get caught short later. So now that all of the plans are complete, as of last Friday, we have some updated numbers. The good news is they're all lower than the original numbers, so that's a good thing. And I'll try not to bore you with all of the glorious details, but long story short is in 2025, all of the cost will be covered either by the county ARPA grant or the ODOT money for right-of-way acquisition. And then in 2026, all of the anticipated costs would be covered by a combination of what's left of the county ARPA money at that point, the ODOT money, and our TIF fund, so.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
One other thing too, and it's probably more of a comment concerning the businesses.
Yeah.
You know, and our economic development person is sitting back there also, so. As you stated before, the sidewalks will become the responsibility basically of the businesses.
Yeah.
So from an economic development standpoint and showing good, I guess, partnership
Faith,
with our,
yeah.
with our business community, we need to maintain good communication with those companies and make sure that they're fully aware of this project. I know we had it, the mayor checked before, and you know, it had been posted on the website at one point and all that stuff. But the businesses, whether they look at our website or not, who knows? They need to be contacted directly. So as far as planning for that, what do you envision for that?
Yeah, so to this point, in the past, when field survey work began, you know, letters went out to all the property owners, in addition to the posting on the website, like you'd mentioned.
So
I
the
would-
landowners did receive
Yeah,
Why
oh,
it
yeah,
was-
I'm sure.
Why it was being surveyed?
Yeah, probably 12 months ago, probably,
Okay.
last spring. Typically, the next point of contact, well, let me back up a half a step. As we get into right-of-way acquisition process, like we discussed, we'll need to hire a service to provide that right-of-way acquisition service for us. That consultant or that service company typically would be the next point of contact, or the next time the property owners are contacted. They'd be contacted by this consultant and given all the glorious information of exactly where the strip of right-of-way is that we intend to take and how much money is being offered for it. To your
So,
point.
And to that, yeah, kind of, when you're done, explain that whole process, because I know from one of the business owners, the question was whether, is there, it didn't really come, but we were wondering, is there compensation? Is it more of an easement? Give a little more detail when you're done answering the.
Yeah, sure. So, and I guess the only other thing I was gonna say is, I guess we reserve the right to send out a mailing to all of our property owners, really at any time, to update them on any part of this project that we want to. So, we can always do that at any time that we want.
Yeah,
So,
I think that would be great,
Yeah.
even if it's every 6 months or something like that. would-
yeah, periodically, we could give them an update, and that might actually be a good idea, so. Yeah, as far as right
Kind
away.
of go through that, because that was one of the, like,
Yeah, sure.
like what that consultant or contractor will do. You mentioned they'll be the next thing, but what are they, and what role does the property owner have in that?
In what role the property owner, so what will happen, I'll try to step you guys through this here quickly. We will hire what's known as a right-of-way consultant. That consulting service they'll go through all the legal steps, all the properties will be appraised, so that there's, I guess we'll call it a fair market value determined for each strip of right-of-way. All of the deeds and legal descriptions will be prepared. Then the right-of-way consulting service will approach each property owner individually, give them all the information as to their rights and all the information as to how exactly this was determined, exactly where the strip is that we need to purchase, and exactly how much we're offering. Then there can be a little negotiation period. You can't negotiate it too far. If we're offering, I'm making up the numbers, $5,000, they can't respond and say, I want $200,000. Well, then it's off, and there's other steps that come into play. But so there is a little bit of a negotiation period, and then eventually we acquire all of the strips of right-of-way that we need. So.
And when you say that, it's a question I pose to you, is what we're acquiring is just the footprint of where that sidewalk is going to sit.
Correct, yes, yeah, the sidewalk itself needs to fall within the public right-of-way, so that the public has the right to walk down the sidewalk, very similar to all of the roads fall within the public right-of-way, so we all have the right to drive down the road in front of everybody's house. So same approach here with the sidewalks, yes.
Okay. Any other questions from?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Klukan also said, asked if, I believe it is referring to the crosswalk. Would there be one right across the street from Dunham Products? There's a bus stop there?
No.
Okay.
Crosswalks would be at Alexander and Hannon.
And his second comment was, I never received any notice of this project.
Okay. And I guess to go back 3 steps in this conversation, and we don't have to answer this tonight, and it has nothing to do with the piece of legislation before us tonight, but if in the future, as a village, we decided to take on the maintenance responsibility of the sidewalk, could always pay for it with TIF funds. Would be an eligible cost. Now, most sidewalks last for 20, 30, 40 years, so, you know, it's not an imminent cost, but.
Any other questions from council, the audience, or any of our residents, business owners watching the live stream?
No.
Okay, so, any other questions for Mr. Gelati? So we're gonna start going through the legislation. Who would like to introduce that? Let's have some discussion. Do you want to pass it under suspension? Would you like to put it on first reading? What is,
Suspension is, this one's good for suspensions. It's preliminary. It's a preliminary document or contract. And we still have time to discuss, you know, the whole maintenance piece down the road.
Yeah, that could be determined at a later date, yeah. This probably isn't the time to determine it anyways.
Right.
okay. I just have one more question. So before that consultant were to contact the business owners, I'd like to see a letter go out. So at least they have, you know, when they are contacted, they're aware of why they're being contacted.
Yeah.
So if we could do that.
Yeah, as a village,
in the next couple weeks, or.
Yeah, we could do a letter as a village to say, hey, I guess brief update on the project, and then also let them know you will be contacted by a right-of-way consultant in the near future. And then they hear it from, and probably on our letterhead with your signature, they hear it from us, they hear it from you, and then when they're contacted by this other party, they're not surprised, they're expecting it, and it's better received.
Right, I think that's
I'm all for
the
that.
concern of the business owners. And that would Joe, would that have your number as the engineer?
Yeah.
If they had questions to reach you?
Historically, yes, correct.
Okay.
Historically, on project-related letters that we've sent out, it always has my email address or contact information at the bottom, so.
Great.
And then, of course, they all call Rob, so.
Yeah.
Nobody
But
follows
that's
the
okay, because
directions.
Rob does a good job of explaining, but then could always direct them.
Yeah, and I guess the last part I would say, is once we get into the right-of-way acquisition portion of the job here, we all should be careful not to be a part of that, and we'll let our service deal directly with the property owners, because it's a legal process, and there's a fee negotiation there. So I wouldn't want for any of us, myself included, and all of our elected officials here, to get caught in the middle on that. That could be a bad thing. So if there are any questions that are brought forward to any of you guys from a property owner, I would say send it to me, and I will send it directly to our right-of-way service. And it's a little protection for all of you. Right. And we want to limit our liability there, obviously, so.
And I know some of the concerns, Joe, and I know it's kind of hard for you to foresee, but just being a sidewalk, the road would be open, it should be open. We don't see no closure.
Oh, you mean the travel lane?
The travel.
I mean, they'll probably close one lane. Good thing we have 4, so.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I don't foresee traffic being a problem, no.
Okay. Or access, most of the property owners have enough where you can do one side of the sidewalk and then another side and still allow.
Yeah, most either have a wide apron, or they have 2 aprons.
Right.
I suppose there's probably a few cases where a property owner has only one driveway and it's only 10 feet wide and that's all they got. Well, I guess they're gonna be out of their driveway for 2 days while we build a sidewalk, so they'll have to work that out with the contractor, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
does that easement go across an apron? Or is it
Oh, yeah.
just, it goes
Yeah.
across the apron?
Yes, it would have to, because
Oh, so
again, if you're
people
walking down the
actually-
sidewalk,
That makes sense.
yeah, at some point you have to walk across their apron, yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Jennifer.
The property owners, Joe, I'm assuming that the rest of their property will be restored to the condition that it
Oh,
was
yeah.
in prior to?
Correct, yeah, for the most part, it's just grass out there, so
Right.
it'll be all new grass when they're done.
And I know as we talked about it, everybody here, of course, with Mr. Jordan, Joe and Rob, and this, and council and the administration was, the sidewalk is just a key piece. Not only were we very concerned about the safety of residents, non-residents, just the general public, we would also like to start to clean up that corridor.
Yeah.
And the sidewalk is just a part of it. You know, we get those TIF funds, be nice to get a little more landscaping, maybe some islands, you know, somewhere, and just a little more, because we all know that that corridor needs to be cleaned up.
Mhm.
Not only is the sidewalk, I mean, the most important thing is the safety end of it, that's what's initiated everything, but I think we can clean up that area.
Yeah, secondary benefit is to help clean up
Yes.
the corridor, I agree.
We don't want anybody walking in the street anymore. It just isn't a good thing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Klukan says, "I am for the sidewalk, but I believe there should be a meeting with the business owners before this read or adopted. It will make the process simpler if the businesses feel they are involved."
All right, everybody's looking at me, so I guess I'll
No,
answer. I understand his point. I would say that we should pass the legislation tonight and move forward, as opposed to trying to coordinate a meeting with, there must be 25 property owners on the corridor. I mean,
I think what's important, Mr. Klugen, is if this project was going to start in May of this year, I would
different story.
I would say, boy, this body didn't do the right thing. We're talking about construction starting in June of 2026. We have time to put out a letter to the businesses with information for them to contact the engineers. I don't know, I mean, how I look at it, and I don't know, I have total respect for the businesses. They are, the payroll tax we receive from the employees and the businesses is what maintains this village. And I'm very grateful for that, as long as, and everybody else here. And, but I think we all do understand, and you mentioned yourself too, you're for the sidewalk, that the sidewalk project's gonna move forward. But your comment is that they need to understand the project, and we're gonna do that. We have time to do that.
there's lots of time for that.
Lots of time, we have time, sending letters out, and go from there. I don't know what a meeting would do. If the goal of this body is to install the sidewalk, I don't, as far as business comment, I think we'll have plenty of time for that.
I agree, we would.
But I
Yeah,
understand,
and-
I understand the business's concerns.
Yeah, and we always, I guess, have the ability to have a group meeting with all of the property owners if we wanted to, or we could have a one-on-one meeting with an individual property owner at any time that we feel the need, right? So,
But with that said, I know we've talked about it, we've applied for this grant. This posting was May 22nd of 2024. I think it's an exciting project, and I think on this body's watch, not moving this project forward and we have the funding,
Yep.
would be a crime. But I understand that the businesses should have their input too. And as you said, Joe, they will meet with that person.
Yes.
They'll be, appraised value will be there, there could be negotiations.
Mhm.
But it's council's pleasure tonight, whether you want to put it on for first reading or go suspension. Council President Weeder?
Yeah, Mayor Colograph, first, I'd just like to thank Mr. Kuchlan for joining us tonight and expressing his support for the project and concern for the project as well. Councilman Spitznagel had mentioned some things that I pretty much wrote the same note. This is a great project for enhancing our community, helps with economic development in total when you provide safety features, which also makes the area look a little better. But with that being said, I think we should continue to move forward with this preliminary contract, but also try to find some time where we can set aside some time to engage as a community, our business owners, our business community. They're in it with us for the long haul. And I fully support the idea of a community meeting with our business owners. And I looked on the schedule to see if there was any kind of like a public meeting. I don't see anything, that's not in there. However, the fact that Mr. Gelati, according to the schedule, the Stage 3 plans are complete and ready to move forward with the right-of-way piece. I think that's a great time to present this project to the community, to our business community, and perhaps we can engage them in all of them in being supportive of and creating this public-private partnership of economic development enhancements as well as safety enhancements for our community. I think that will be my thoughts on how we move forward with this. But we can't stop. No, not stopping the project, but engaging our wonderful business owners who are engaged with us tonight.
Just talking a little bit with Councilman Spitznagel for the meeting. I agree with that, but I don't see a public meeting. I could see maybe if you wanted to invite the businesses to an infrastructure meeting. I don't, I don't understand. But it's up to council's pleasure, whatever they want to do.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just one more. Well, I think council's pleasure would be to keep the project moving. That's our responsibility. But in terms of the community engagement, that's not necessarily council's responsibility. That would be administration with council support. I think we can all support in that. Or if it comes to council, I would be happy to host that meeting if it comes to council, if it's a council piece. Mr. Spitznagel.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a safety, economic development. It's a wonderful addition to our village. It's a wonderful safety feature for our village. And I think overall the businesses will appreciate a sidewalk rather than people walking on the grass and ruining your grass. I think it will ultimately increase the value of that property to a certain extent. This is a safety issue first and foremost, and it's a very big dollar project, and we can't, as Mr. Whedon said, we can't, and the mayor, we can't postpone it. We have to move forward with it. But that engagement with just giving them the information, and I've had this conversation, we're not gonna, we can pave the streets with 14-karat gold bricks, and somebody will complain we didn't do it with 18-karat
The wrong
gold
bricks.
bricks.
Yeah.
Right, so,
Mhm.
we're not gonna make, there's somebody gonna be mad
Yeah.
at this project, I can guarantee you that.
Mhm.
But, you know, we have to move forward, and it's for the village.
Yeah. Yeah,
And we have to and that's our job, we have
Yeah.
to make that decision, and I've made it, I'm voting yes for this. I have no choice but to vote yes for
Yeah.
it.
I'm going to add a little
Go
bit, when the Ford Innovation Project started and that project came to the Planning Commission, the commission was made aware and very aware of the struggle we have in areas where there's businesses and no sidewalk, okay? So the Planning Commission was insistent that that project has a sidewalk as that property grows and continues. So where the first building is, there is a sidewalk there. I know we got a lot of comments on why it wrapped around and why the contractor didn't go straight. And the reason is because there's a gas line there that the gas company wouldn't move. So they went around. It would have been cheaper for that company to go straight, but they had to follow that. The bottom line is, when a person is walking, going to the bus stop, they are not in the street. Whether they're walking around the pole, behind the pole, they are out of the right of way. And I think that was our goal here. And I think our goal is to install those sidewalks along Northfield, to have a place for those employees or non-employees to be out of the right of way. I really, but I do agree, Joe, maybe in the next couple of weeks we can get a letter out.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The more we talk about this as a group, I feel like where we're at, or what I would recommend is we pass the legislation, we sign the agreement with ODOT, then we send out a letter to all the affected property owners, and we'll see what kind of feedback or response we get, and then that could lead us to individual meeting or group meeting, depending on what kind of response we get. I think those are our steps forward.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Joe, that is standard operating if we're repaving a road, one of the residential roads or
Mhm.
things like that.
Yeah,
too,
it
right?
is, I guess, yeah, we're paving a residential road, you know, we send out a letter, and now we never really have a group meeting, because we're just paving the road, but we
Right.
do, you know, there might be one resident out there that responds, and then we just have some individual back and forth with that person to answer any questions they might have. So,
Right.
similar process, you're right.
Okay.
Because I think Mr. Klugen, as a business owner and other business owners and all of us here, as Mr. Klugen stated, he's for the sidewalk. So I think we all agree it's a positive project. We just need to communicate the project well. At this time, we don't have any renderings or anything, do we, Joe, or more plans?
They would be engineering plans or construction plans,
Right,
not
right.
really pretty renderings like we
Okay.
typically get at
Right,
planning
right,
commission, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr.
But we're
Mayor?
happy to show that to an individual if they wanted to see it, so.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead,
We-
Mr. News.
when we first started talking about Ford Innovation East, and we talked about this, you know, putting a sidewalk in, and how much, we saw the renderings, we saw the drawings, and how it would make it look. And the safety issue certainly was one of the big points. When we first talked about running the sidewalk down Northfield Road, we talked about a sidewalk on the east side of the road. We had not talked about a sidewalk on both sides of the road. Now we have an opportunity to put sidewalks on both sides of the road, increasing the safety factor. And I think what it'll do to both sides to make it look better. And with ODOT funding this, and this being a preliminary go-ahead, I can't see where we have really any choice. I mean, I think it's one of those things that put before us, and it's what we talked about, and it's even a little bit more than we talked about. So that's, I would have to be in agreement with going ahead with it tonight. And I understand Mr. Klugen's, his concerns, but hopefully we can address those in the future.
I agree.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a question for Mr. Gelati.
Yeah, oh yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Speaking of both sides of the road, the both sides of the road ends at Northfield. I'm sorry, ends at Alexander
Alexander.
Road and Northfield.
Yeah.
It does not go to
Not,
south of that.
no, it does not.
Is
no.
there a reason for that?
So, well, on the east side of the road, there is sidewalk in front of the first building for Forward Innovation, and they will install additional sidewalk when they develop the remaining parcel that fronts on Northfield Road. On the west side, there is no sidewalk, and that's not a part of this project, and it just was not in the limits that we originally approached or discussed with ODOT. So it could be a future project, but not a part of this project.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Joe, we've talked, and Tom's aware of this, we talked about some improvements in some of our industrial areas. And I don't mean this to any property owners in any way, but it's really just why I'm excited about this project. If our goal was, no matter what, we were gonna get sidewalks in there, okay? There was some talk, even we could have put sidewalks and assessed the property owners, is that not?
Oh, that's a thing, yeah.
That's not
Yeah,
uncommon.
that is not uncommon, yeah. So,
uncommon
yeah,
practice.
good point. We're not assessing anybody, yeah.
Right. In fact, the property owners will receive funds for the property we're using. Okay.
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
And that was really the big goal, because as Mr. Klugen stated, you know, it puts a burden on the businesses where this isn't now. We worked very hard, this administration, along with you, Joe, Rob, all of us, Tom, to acquire this funding, and you're looking at almost $2 million in funding that isn't costing the village or the property owner. And Councilman Spitzman, you know, said even possibly improving the property. So I really see it as a win-win situation for everybody. I know when communities have to assess property owners, whether they're business owners or residents, it's a tough,
It's always a
Tough
tough
thing.
conversation.
and I think all of us understood here, we had to do something. I know as mayor, I had to do something, along with council here, to get another phone call saying something happened. Because whether we either wanted to pay it through village funds, assess the homeowners, not homeowners, but the property owners, we had to do it. But we've been very fortunate, ODOT, our ARPA money has, especially ODOT, recognized the need for this project. And that is really, it's a win-win. We're getting sidewalks for safety, we're improving the property at no cost to the property owners or the village of Walton Hills.
Yeah, it's all good stuff, every part of it, I
Right,
agree.
Right. I know, like anything, when we pave Dunham, for the business owners, there will be a time it's gonna stink. You know, you got traffic, you got this, but at the end of the project, it will be a good thing. So I think we need to increase the communication, as stated by council and administration and you, Joe, and share the project as it moves forward. Any other questions from council?
No.
Who would like to, you already got, okay. Any questions from any residents or non-residents, business owners watching the live stream?
No.
Okay. All right, then we've got all the legislation, we'll go through the legislation. Okay. Okay, we have item A, ordinance 2025-1, an OPEC Energized Community Grant.
Mr. Mayor,
Jennifer Allen.
I would like to introduce for suspension ordinance 2025-1, an ordinance authorizing all actions necessary to accept Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, 2025 Energized Community Grant and declaring an emergency.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote on the suspension.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, suspension passed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of ordinance 2025-1.
Is it second by Councilman Spitznagel? Vote on the adoption.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Grant passed. 5-0. Item B, ordinance 2025-2,
Mr. Mayor,
amending appropriations.
I'd like to introduce for suspension resolution number 2025-2, ordinance number 2025-2, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2024-21, making additional appropriations for current expenditures of the Village of Walton Hills, Ohio during the year 2025 and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Second for suspension by Councilwoman Allen. Vote on the suspension.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, suspension passed, 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption for resolution ordinance number 2025-2.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Allen. Vote on the adoption.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Passed. We have item C, ordinance 2025-3, the ODOT preliminary legislation.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for suspension of ordinance 2025-3, ODOT preliminary legislation, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute contracts with the Director of Transportation, which are necessary to develop plans for and to complete construction of sidewalks on both sides of Northfield Road from Alexander Road to the Railroad Bridge, and to execute contracts with ODOT pre-qualified consultants for the preliminary engineering phase of the project and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Second by Councilman Whedon. Vote on the suspension.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of ordinance 2025-3.
Second.
Second by Councilman Whedon. Vote on the adoption.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance passed, 5-0. Thank you, everybody. We got item D, ordinance 2025-4, consulting agreement with T. Jordan and Associates LLC.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Spitznagel.
I would like to introduce for suspension ordinance 2025-4, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into to enter an amended and restated consulting agreement with T. Jordan and Associates LLC, parentheses, Jordan, for economic development and related services and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Second by Councilman Nielsen. Vote on the suspension.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Suspension passed, 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of ordinance 2025-4.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Nielsen. Vote on the adoption.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance passed, 5-0. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
yes, I'd like to introduce for suspension resolution number 2025-6, a resolution accepting the national opioid settlement and creating special revenue fund and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Allen. Vote on the suspension.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Nielsen.
I'd like to ask for adoption of resolution number 2025-6.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Allen. Vote on the adoption.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 2025-6 passed 5-0. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Any old or new business?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Councilwoman
No,
Allen.
go ahead.
There has been some news in the Cleveland Plain Dealer lately, the last couple of weeks, and I've been keeping my eye on it. I've not seen any of the meetings close by for our residents. But this is the Ohio Citizens for Property Tax Reform is trying to get a ballot initiative to help more people get homestead exemption on their property taxes to get into more reform. This is still a work in process. They're hoping to unveil the amendment by the end of the month, but by then, they are going to need, at that time, they're going to need to gather at least 460,000 signatures to get it onto the ballot in November. Trying to scan this, see who the Keith Davey is one that's really working on this progress. There have been many meetings that have been very well attended on the west side. However, please, residents, note, they are going to have a meeting next Monday at St. Monica's on Rockside Road at 6:30. As many people as possible can go. I believe you can bring up your concerns with them also, because it is a work in progress of what they want to send to be voted on in November. Remember, it is illegal already for them to be, that has been determined years and years ago. They cannot use our property taxes to fund the schools, and that's still being done. I think that's something that should be brought up. I will be attending. It will be next Monday, 6:30, St. Monica's on Rockside Road, 13623 Rockside Road in Garfield Heights. I think it's very important for everyone that's been interested, the many phone calls that I've had about the property taxes. We have no control over it. And for the residents, to please remember, the village only gets $16 for every $100,000 of your value. So if you're interested in this, as the many phone calls and emails that I've had, if you have any questions, everybody knows how to get a hold of me. Please do. I will tell you what I know. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else for any old or new business?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Is this one I would put through my motion that I would like to have, John?
Yes, yes.
John, you want to grab the mic?
Oh, yes, Councilwoman. Yes.
Okay.
You want to make a
Okay.
motion? Go ahead.
Yes, okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'd like to ask for a motion to increase the pay for our facility event coordinators to $150 per event.
Second?
Second by Fred Nielsen. Vote on the motion.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
for clarification for the people who may be watching or listening, that $150 is going to be charged to the renter of the facility. It's not coming out of our village pocket.
That, further, did you guys discuss that? So moving forward, are you waiting to, I thought there was discussion that we were waiting, that decision wasn't made yet, and it was whether or not to start it in the beginning of 2026, or are you starting it tomorrow?
We have a lot of events already scheduled through August. So it would really be hard to try to start putting through any kind of an increase on the renter at this point for the events. It would be really hard.
Okay, so I'm clear. Through August, we would be footing the difference, the village,
Yes,
and then
That's what I
after
understand.
August, okay.
Yeah.
I'm still okay with it.
Okay.
Okay.
I know, and maybe if, you know, there wasn't, I know me, Diane, and we talked about, you know, Mary and Natalie talked about that, and I know some of that concern was, so let's say you booked your event yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I go to book my event tomorrow for both residents, and I see that increase. The discussion was, we'll finish out the year and then start at the beginning, right at the beginning.
So we're gonna finish out 2025
Correct.
in
Is
we
it
style.
would like to, yes, that's what we did discuss, but we didn't do it on the floor with
And
all
didn't
of
make a final
council.
decision, that's
Or
why.
make any kind of final decision on it, but when I had asked about it and they said they were already booked through August, it's really hard to have something effective September. I mean, it's up to council, but it would make more sense to start it with all of our flyers, programs, website for January of 2026.
And
Okay.
I can add a little further to it, because Nikki was part of the conversation. We felt that the recreation and community life could absorb that in their budget. Correct, Nikki?
Correct.
Okay.
So that was the important thing, because I know exactly that was
Yes.
a concern.
Mhm.
Nikki makes faces when any of us make those decisions, so we always ask her, and she did look at,
Okay.
and said she would be able to absorb. We looked at last year's programs, because it's hard to predict, you know, from, what did you mention, September?
Right.
You know, October, November, December, but we looked at last year's and those programs, or you also look, what if every weekend was booked? So, and we felt that, Natalie would be able, not Natalie, but that recreation community life budget would be able to absorb that amount. So there would be no reappropriating for that.
Right.
Very good.
Does that help?
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think one of the other things wasn't it to incentivize people to, take that job?
Right, to apply for the position of the event coordinators. We are down to 2, and we would like to be able to.
And the problem was, it's great how the recreation and community life committee, I mean, when it all went in together, everybody, even some people that were interested in the position, thought that was a fair stipend, we'll call it. But then after doing it for a year, you work out the bugs, and with them being there at that site, and some being there long hours, the compensation didn't justify the hours worked. So you made the changes, which was good. Any other old or new business? So with that, I guess with that said though, as starting tomorrow, any event coordinator would be compensated at that new rate,
Okay.
correct?
Mhm.
That was our intention,
Mhm.
council's intention, okay. Any other old or new business? Okay, any comments from any residents, non-residents? Anybody watching the live stream?
No.
Okay. Item 11 is a motion to go in executive session. If that is approved, we're going to go in executive session. When we do end the executive session and reconvene, we will return to the regular council meeting and adjourn at that time. There will not be any discussion or any legislation at that time. Is that correct, counsel?
Mhm.
Okay. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Oh,
make
not
a
a motion, I'm
motion to
sorry.
go into executive session.
Yeah.
A motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters concerning a service department retirement, to discuss economic development concerning 7845 Northfield Road, Draft WH number 1, and permanent parcel number 794-34-031, and to discuss pending or imminent court action, all pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22 sub G.
Second?
Second by Councilman Nielsen. Vote on the motion.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes?
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay. Motion approved. Okay, does anybody want to, we can go in my office. We can do that in there. I'm going to council chambers yet. Are we gonna end the meeting? Hang on, are we gonna end the meeting?
You can just, see this one right here. This should,
I'm not even gonna go check it, whatever, you know, we're not
No,
talking
it
about.
should,
that part, guys.
I'm gonna go start my car then. Give it a few minutes. You guys want me to start anybody else's?
I need one of those
No,
buttons.
we're good.
Start the car, warm it up. I need that.
It's cold out there.
I think you can
Tonight's
install
gonna
them
be
in
the
any
cold, one of the
car.
coldest, like yesterday, and then it's gonna start warming up. I
Yeah.
just can't get warm, man.
It's gonna be
Holy
like
cow.
-5 tomorrow morning, but today was -10.
I don't know why this one, but
Well,
I'm
it's
not
8
worried
right
about
now.
it.
8, okay. Good, not counting the wind chill. There is a little wind out there.
8?
If it's not happening, Brian, I
Go
wouldn't
down
go
to
through a
6.
bunch of things.
No.
We're not having any business or anything. I'm just gonna write down.
The time.
All right,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to conclude executive session and return to the regular council
Second.
meeting.
Second, vote on the motion. Councilman Nielsen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
We're good. Think council.
Councilman Smith, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Motion to reconvene. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment of the council meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Whedon. Vote on the motion. Councilman Nielsen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Okay, meeting adjourned at 10:22 PM.
22, 23.
Okay, so I gotta make